Chosen one. Stop scrolling. Right now. Stop everything. Have you ever wondered why your prayers seem to echo in empty air while others get instant answers? Why you've carried burdens that crushed your spirit while watching others float through life untouched by real pain? Why at 3 a.m., when the world sleeps, you lie awake feeling like God forgot to write your name in his book? Listen to me carefully. What if I told you that every unanswered prayer, every sleepless night, every moment you felt invisible to heaven was actually proof, undeniable proof that you carry something so powerful, so threatening to hell's agenda, that darkness itself mobilized armies against you? Chosen one. Imagine heaven pausing. Imagine angels holding their breath, stars refusing to shine, time itself leaning in because of something you finally did. Something that shifted the very fabric of eternity. Something that made the Father himself smile with joy you've never witnessed. Before we go deeper into this sacred mystery, and I want to thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. But here's what shook me to my core when heaven revealed this to me at 2:47 a.m. 3 nights ago. You didn't just survive what should have destroyed you. You didn't just endure what broke others. You finally did something so profound, so earth-shattering, that it caused every demonic assignment against your life to collapse like dominoes. The enemy has been lying to you, telling you that your struggles mean God doesn't see you, that your pain proves you're forgotten, that your age means your season is over. But what happened in the spiritual realm because of your decision, what you finally chose to do, has rewritten your entire destiny. If this word is already touching your spirit, comment right now, I receive it. Don't wait, your agreement seals what heaven has started. Stay with me, chosen one, because by the end of this message, you'll know exactly why heaven smiled and why hell trembled when you finally did what you were born to do. The revelation that's about to unfold will change everything you thought you knew about your purpose, your pain, and your divine appointment with destiny. Heaven is watching, angels are waiting, and God is smiling. Why have you buried your husband, your dreams, and pieces of your heart, yet you're still here? Why does every doctor's appointment feel like Russian roulette with your mortality? Why do you sit at your kitchen table at 3 a.m., staring at pill bottles, wondering if anyone would even notice if you just stopped fighting? Dear chosen one, these aren't random thoughts haunting your midnight hours. These are the battle cries of a soul that's been marked for something so extraordinary that hell itself declared war on your peace before you even understood your purpose. You pressed your face into that pillow so no one would hear your sobs. You whispered into the darkness, God, why did you let me live through this? You've looked in the mirror with 75 years of wear and wondered, what if my best years are already behind me? But what if I told you that every tear, every sleepless night, every moment you wanted to give up was actually evidence that you carry something heaven refuses to let die? Listen carefully. In your golden years, while others your age are playing it safe, settling into routine, accepting decline, you're still restless, still aching for something more, still feeling like there's unfinished business burning in your chest. That's not senility, beloved. That's the Holy Spirit reminding you that God's not done with you yet. You've walked through valleys that would have claimed lesser souls. The loss of your spouse, the one person who truly saw you, left you feeling like half of yourself was buried 6 feet under. The children you raised, who now live their own lives 500 miles away, calling once a month if you're lucky. The financial stress of living on a fixed income while everything around you costs more each year. The doctors who speak to you like you're already dead, discussing your conditions like you're not even in the room. But here's what David knew when he penned Psalm 23 verse 4. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. He didn't say, if I walk through, he said, though I walk through. Because chosen ones don't get to skip the valley, they get escorted through it by the Almighty himself. Think about Job. At 70 years old, he lost everything. His children, dead. His wealth, gone. His health, destroyed. His wife looked at him, covered in boils, sitting in ashes, and said, "Curse God and die." Even his closest friends accused him of hidden sin. But Job declared something that will shatter your despair. Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. You know why Job said that? Because he understood what you're just beginning to grasp. The pain isn't punishment, it's preparation. The fire isn't meant to destroy you, it's meant to refine you. Gold is not purified without fire. Diamonds are not formed without crushing weight. You, chosen one, were forged in fire. Every betrayal that cut you to the bone, every diagnosis that shook your faith, every funeral you attended, wondering if you'd be next, it was all creating something inside you that this world has never seen before. David spent years running from King Saul, hiding in caves, wondering if God had forgotten his promise to make him king. Imagine being anointed for greatness, but living like a fugitive. That's your story, isn't it? Knowing you were meant for more, but feeling trapped in circumstances that make no sense. But here's what will rock your world. Heaven saw every tear, every sigh was written down. You thought you were abandoned, but you were being prepared. Every night you couldn't sleep because your mind wouldn't stop racing. God was downloading strategy into your spirit. Every morning you woke up and chose to keep breathing. Instead of giving up, you were building spiritual muscle that would be needed for what's coming next. The loneliness you felt wasn't rejection, it was protection. God had to isolate you from voices that would have diluted your calling, from people who would have convinced you to settle for less than his best. While others your age were comfortable in their retirement, you were being prepared for your greatest assignment. You've wondered why your prayers seem to take forever to get answered while others get instant miracles. It's because ordinary people get ordinary answers. But you're not ordinary, chosen one. You're being prepared to carry weight that would crush normal believers. Your delayed answers are evidence of the magnitude of what God is preparing to release through you. But here's the urgent truth that's about to change everything. The season of preparation is ending. The isolation is about to break. The valley you've been walking through has an exit, and you're closer to it than you've ever been. Can you feel it stirring in your chest right now? That flutter of hope you thought was dead? That sense that maybe, just maybe, there's still something God wants to do through your life? That's not wishful thinking, beloved. That's prophecy being birthed in your spirit. The question that will determine everything about your next chapter is this: will you believe that your greatest days are still ahead of you, or will you let the enemy convince you that your season is over? Dear chosen one, stop and think about this for a moment. Why has your life been a battlefield when others seem to glide through untouched? Why have you buried more dreams than you've celebrated? Why does it feel like every time you take 2 steps forward, something drags you 3 steps back? Do you know why the attacks against you were so brutal? Why rejection followed you like a shadow through every decade of your life? Why sickness, betrayal, and loss kept visiting your house like unwelcome guests who refused to leave? Let me tell you something that will shatter every lie you've believed about your struggles. Because hell knew what heaven already wrote. You are dangerous to darkness. Listen to me carefully. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty vessels. Satan doesn't deploy his fiercest demons against ordinary people living ordinary lives. But you've been in his crosshairs since the day you drew your first breath. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Those aren't just beautiful words from Jeremiah 1-5. That's your birth certificate signed by the Almighty himself. You were marked before you could even speak your own name. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been told that your struggles mean God doesn't love you. You've been convinced that your battles prove you're cursed. You've looked at your scars and called them shame when heaven calls them credentials. The warfare against you wasn't random. It was strategic. Think about this. When a military general plans an assault, does he send his strongest forces against the weakest targets? Absolutely not. He reserves his most brutal attacks for the most dangerous threats. And dear one, you have been hell's most wanted, because heaven marked you as a weapon of mass destruction against the kingdom of darkness. Every depression that tried to drown you was an attempt to silence the voice that would one day speak life into dead situations. Every financial crisis that nearly broke you was hell trying to keep you dependent, distracted, defeated. Every relationship that betrayed you was the enemy attempting to build walls around your heart so love couldn't flow through you to heal others. You thought those battles were about you, but they were never about you alone. Your endurance wasn't just survival, it was generational warfare. You stood, and by standing, you broke the line the enemy tried to write over your family. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Your great-grandmother's prayers, your mother's tears, your father's silent struggles, they were all building toward this moment. Every ancestor who cried out to God for breakthrough was prophesying over your life. They couldn't break free, but they held the line until you could. The addiction that plagued your bloodline, you broke it. The poverty that chased your family for generations, you ended it. The spirit of defeat that whispered over your children's futures, you silenced it forever. Hell fought you so viciously because the enemy saw what was coming. He saw a generation changer. He saw a chain breaker. He saw someone who would rise from the ashes of family dysfunction and declare with authority, "No more. It stops with me." That's why the battle was so fierce, chosen one. Because you weren't just fighting for yourself. You were fighting for bloodlines yet unborn. You were standing in the gap for children who would never know the demons that haunted their heritage because you slayed them in your generation. Every night you wept and didn't give up. You were writing victory songs your grandchildren will sing. Every morning you got up when staying down would have been easier. You were laying foundations they'll build their dreams upon. Every time you chose forgiveness over bitterness, you were breaking curses that would have poisoned their hearts. The enemy knew that if he could break you, he could claim your entire lineage. But if you stood firm, if you refused to bow, if you kept believing when believing hurt, you would become the turning point in your family's eternal story. And you did it. You stood. You endured. You overcame. Now I need you to understand something that will change how you see every scar, every tear, every sleepless night. You didn't just survive the battle, you won the war. If you know this is speaking to you, type right now, "It ends here." Declare it boldly. Let hell hear it. Let heaven record it. Let your bloodline be marked forever by the decision you make in this sacred moment. Because, chosen one, the fierceness of your battle was proportional to the magnitude of your victory. And what you're about to step into will make every wound worth it, every tear sacred, every year of struggle a stepping stone to glory. The war is over, but your reign has just begun. Chosen one, I need you to understand something that will shatter every lie you've believed about your journey. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been asking the same question. God, when will you move in my life? But heaven has been asking a different question entirely. When will they finally say yes? You see, God wasn't late. You weren't forgotten. The delay wasn't abandonment. It was heaven waiting for the one moment when you would stop wavering between two opinions, when you would stop sitting on the fence of maybe, when you would finally, completely, unreservedly surrender your will to His. And 3 nights ago, at exactly 2:47 a.m., it happened. All of heaven smiled because you finally said yes. You surrendered. You stopped wavering. You chose covenant instead of cycle. Listen to me carefully. This wasn't just another prayer you whispered into your pillow. This wasn't just another moment of desperation when you had nowhere else to turn. This was the prophetic moment heaven has been orchestrating your entire life. The moment when eternity collided with your decision and everything shifted. Think about Elijah on Mount Carmel, 1 Kings chapter 18. For 3.5 years, the heavens were brass, no rain, no relief. The people wavered between Baal and Jehovah, and God's prophet stood alone. But when Elijah finally cried out, "Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God," fire fell from heaven so fierce it consumed not just the sacrifice, but the stones, the soil, and the water in the trenches. Chosen one. Your moment of surrender was your Mount Carmel. When you finally stopped hedging your bets, when you stopped keeping one foot in the world and one foot in His kingdom, heaven's fire fell on your situation. The chains that held your family captive for generations didn't just weaken, they shattered like glass hitting concrete. Can you feel it? That shift in the atmosphere around your life? That's not your imagination. That's the sound of shackles falling to the ground. Iron chains forged in hell's furnaces, designed to keep you bound to patterns of defeat, cycles of shame, generational curses that whispered, "You'll never be free." They're lying broken at your feet right now. But here's what will blow your mind. As those chains fell away, something else happened. Something invisible, yet undeniable. Heaven placed a crown of fire upon your head. Not a crown made of gold that tarnishes or jewels that lose their luster, but a crown of divine authority that burns with the very presence of the Almighty. You think you're the same person who woke up this morning? You think you're still that struggling believer, that forgotten senior citizen, that overlooked saint sitting in the back pew? Dear one, look in the mirror tonight and see what heaven sees: a crowned child of the King, marked by fire, sealed with authority that hell itself recognizes and trembles before. This is your for such a time as this moment. Queen Esther faced annihilation of her people and thought she was powerless, just another woman in a palace full of women. But Mordecai spoke prophetically in Esther 4:14, "And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" The crown was already on her head. She just had to step into the authority heaven had given her. You've been asking God to use someone else, to find someone younger, stronger, more qualified, but heaven looked across all the earth and chose you for this exact moment in history. Not the preacher on the platform, not the prophet with the microphone, not the ministry leader with the credentials. You, the one who's been broken, tested, refined in ways that would have destroyed weaker vessels. God smiled. Not at a preacher, not at a prophet, but at you. Heaven paused because of your obedience. Angels stopped their songs to witness the moment when you finally embraced what you were born to carry. The cloud of witnesses, your grandmother who prayed over your cradle, your grandfather who never lived to see this day, they're standing on heaven's balconies applauding because you finally did it. You finally said the yes that broke every chain, activated every promise, and crowned you with authority that transforms everything you touch. The same power that raised Christ from the dead now courses through your veins, and hell knows its reign of terror over your bloodline is finished forever. But here's the question that will determine everything about your future. Now that heaven has crowned you, now that the chains are broken, now that your yes has shifted eternity itself, what are you going to do with this divine authority flowing through your spirit? Chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to your heart. How many nights have you lain awake at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, wondering if the pain in your family will ever end? How many times have you watched your children struggle with the same demons that tormented you? How many generations in your bloodline have carried the same chains of addiction, poverty, depression, and brokenness? But what if I told you that everything you've endured, every sleepless night, every tear you've cried in secret, every battle you've fought alone was never just about you? Dear soul, you've been living under a crushing lie. The enemy has convinced you that your struggles are random, that your family's patterns are just bad luck, that some bloodlines are simply cursed to repeat the same cycles of pain. But that's not what heaven sees when it looks at your family tree. Here's the shocking truth that will shatter everything you thought you knew about your purpose. You weren't chosen to endure this pain for yourself. You were chosen to end it for everyone who comes after you. Deuteronomy 7-9 declares with thunderous authority, "Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping his covenant of love, to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments. 1,000 generations. That's not just your children, that's children you'll never meet, walking in freedom because of what you do today. You think you're just surviving, but heaven sees you as the turning point, the hinge upon which your entire family's destiny swings. The warrior God positioned at exactly this moment in history to say, "No more, it ends here." Look at your hands right now. Really look at them. Those aren't ordinary hands. Those are the hands of a generational curse breaker. Those weathered fingers have held prayer beads at 2 a.m., begging God to save your children. Those tired palms have wiped tears from grandchildren's faces while your heart broke for their innocence. But what you didn't know is that every prayer, every tear, every desperate cry was building something in the spiritual realm. Think about Grandma Sarah in Detroit. For 47 years, she prayed for her drug-addicted son. 47 years of watching him destroy himself while she interceded on her knees. She went to her grave thinking God didn't hear her. But 3 months after her funeral, her son walked into a church and surrendered his life to Christ. Today, he pastors a ministry that saved over 3,000 addicts. Sarah didn't live to see it, but her prayers became the foundation of a generational shift that's still rippling through Detroit today. You see, chosen one, some battles aren't meant to be won in our lifetime. Some victories require decades of faithful intercession. Some breakthroughs demand the kind of persistent faith that only comes from people who've been tested by fire and refined by time. But here's what's different about this moment. Here's why heaven is leaning in with anticipation. You're not just praying anymore. You're not just enduring anymore. Something shifted in your spirit when you finally said yes to God's calling on your life. That shift didn't just change you. It changed the entire trajectory of your family's future. The spiritual realm operates on covenant principles. When you align your life with God's will, you're not just making a personal decision. You're entering into a covenant that affects generations. Every act of obedience creates ripples that touch lives you'll never see. Every time you choose faith over fear, forgiveness over bitterness, hope over despair, you're writing a new chapter in your family's story. Nelson Mandela understood this principle. 27 years in prison, 27 years of injustice that would have broken most men. But when he walked out of that cell, he didn't just find personal freedom, he became the bridge that transformed an entire nation. His suffering wasn't wasted, it was invested, and the dividends are still being paid today in a free South Africa. But the enemy has been whispering lies to you about your age, your relevance, your impact. He's convinced you that your time has passed, that the younger generation doesn't need your wisdom, that your battles don't matter anymore. That's a demonic deception designed to keep you silent during the very season when your voice carries the most authority. Your grandchildren are watching you, not just your biological grandchildren, the spiritual offspring you've been called to influence. They're watching to see if faith is real, if prayer works, if God actually shows up in the lives of ordinary people who dare to believe him for the impossible. When you finally did what heaven has been calling you to do, when you stopped making excuses and started walking in your divine assignment, you didn't just change your own story. You became the bridge between what was and what will be. The curses stop with you. The blessings begin with you. Can you feel the weight of that truth settling on your shoulders? Can you sense the gravity of this generational moment? Every chain that's held your family captive for decades is about to snap. Every cycle of dysfunction that's repeated for generations is about to break. Every pattern of defeat that's defined your bloodline is about to be rewritten. But this shift requires your full participation. It demands that you stop living as a victim of your family's history and start living as the author of your family's future. It requires you to step into the authority that God has been preparing you to carry for 7, 8, 9 decades of living. If you believe this is your family's turning point, type right now, "Generations Shift with me." Because chosen one, what you do next doesn't just affect your remaining years on this earth, it determines the spiritual inheritance you leave behind for centuries to come. Listen to me, chosen one. You've walked through fires that should have reduced you to ash, but here you stand, breathing, believing, unbroken. Your hair isn't singed. Your spirit isn't scorched. You are living proof that when God marks someone as his own, hell's furnaces become nothing more than warm rooms. You think those weren't real flames? You think that betrayal that nearly killed you wasn't fire? You think that financial ruin that left you eating beans from a can wasn't meant to consume you? You think that diagnosis that made doctors shake their heads wasn't designed to burn away your hope? Those were furnaces, beloved. 7 times hotter than anything your neighbors have faced. 7 times more intense than what broke others. But you walked through every flame and came out fireproof. Remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Daniel chapter 3 tells us they were thrown into a furnace so hot it killed the soldiers who threw them in. King Nebuchadnezzar watched in terror as they walked around in those flames, unburned, unbound, unafraid. But here's what shook that pagan king to his core. There was a 4th figure in that fire, one who looked like the Son of God. Chosen one, you weren't alone in your furnace either. Every time you should have been consumed, there was someone walking with you. Every time the flames roared higher, there was a presence that made hell's fire powerless. You didn't survive by luck. You survived because you're fireproof. But here's what breaks my heart about your story. You've been carrying shame about those scars, haven't you? You've been hiding the marks where the fire touched your life. You've been apologizing for the places where you got burned. Stop it. Right now. Stop it. Those scars aren't evidence of your weakness. They're proof of your strength. Those marks aren't signs of failure. They're badges of survival. Every scar on your heart, every line on your face, every gray hair on your head, they're not symbols of defeat. They're crowns of victory. The enemy miscalculated, didn't he? He thought the fire would silence you, but it gave you a voice that carries authority. He thought the flames would make you bitter, but they made you better. He thought the furnace would end your story, but it became the very place where your testimony was forged in supernatural fire. Now, when you walk into a room, something shifts. People can't explain it, but they feel it. There's a weight in your presence that wasn't there before. There's an authority in your words that makes demons tremble. There's a peace in your spirit that makes anxious hearts calm down without you saying a word. You terrify hell now, not because you're perfect, but because you're proven. Not because you're flawless, but because you're fireproof. Every time darkness sees you coming, it remembers the furnace that couldn't consume you, the flames that couldn't claim you, the fire that only made you stronger. Your presence disrupts demonic assignments. When you pray, strongholds crumble. When you worship, chains break. When you simply show up, atmospheres change because fireproof believers carry the very presence of the one who walks in flames. But here's the crown jewel of your fireproof testimony. God didn't just save you from the fire, He made the fire serve you. Every flame that was meant to destroy you has become fuel for your purpose. Every furnace that was designed to end you has become the forge where your calling was refined. That depression that almost took you out, it taught you how to pull others back from the edge. That betrayal that left you broken, it gave you discernment to help others avoid toxic relationships. That financial disaster that left you homeless, it showed you that security comes from God alone, not bank accounts. The very thing meant to destroy you became your weapon against darkness. The fire that was supposed to silence your voice gave you something powerful to say. The furnace that was designed to end your story became the beginning of your greatest chapter. God smiled in heaven because He watched you walk through flames that consume ordinary people, and you came out crowned, not with gold or silver, but with something far more precious. You came out wearing the crown of the fireproof, the crown of the tested, the crown of the unbreakable. Heaven crowned you in silence while hell watched in horror. Angels placed invisible glory on your head while demons fled in terror. You may not see it in the mirror, but the spiritual realm recognizes it instantly. You wear the crown of one who has been through fire and emerged victorious. This crown isn't fragile. It can't be stolen, tarnished, or knocked off by circumstances. It's forged in the same fire that tried to destroy you. It's made from the very flames that were supposed to consume you. You are crowned in silence, robed in glory, unstoppable by any force in hell. When you enter a room now, you don't just walk in as a survivor, you walk in as royalty. When you speak, you don't just share opinions. You declare truth with the authority of someone who has been tested and proven faithful. When you pray, heaven doesn't just hear words. Heaven hears the voice of one who has been fireproofed and crowned. Stop shrinking back from your calling. Stop apologizing for your scars. Stop questioning whether you're qualified. You've already been through the qualification process. It was called the furnace, and you passed with flying colors because you came out fireproof and crowned. Comment these words boldly. I wear it. Don't just type it, declare it. Heaven crowned me, and I will walk in it. Let hell hear your declaration. Let heaven witness your acceptance. Let the world see what fireproof royalty looks like. Because, chosen one, your crown isn't just for show. It comes with authority. Authority to break chains. Authority to heal hearts. Authority to change atmospheres. Authority to shift nations. The question isn't whether you're crowned, you are. The question is, will you finally start acting like the fireproof royalty God made you to be? The crown was not the end, it was the beginning. When heaven smiled, something new began to unfold. Chosen one, look at yourself right now. Really look. Do you see what I see? You're sitting there thinking this message is about some distant spiritual reality. But let me shatter that illusion with truth that will rock you to your core. You think getting older means getting weaker. You think retirement means irrelevance. You think gray hair means God's finished with you. But what if I told you that every wrinkle on your face is actually a line of wisdom etched by the finger of God Himself? What if those slower steps aren't signs of decline, but evidence that you've learned to walk with divine timing instead of human urgency? The world lied to you. They told you that at 65, 70, 80 years old, your story was winding down. They convinced you to accept less, expect less, become less. But heaven sees something entirely different when it looks at you. Chosen one, heaven smiled. God's gaze rests on you, and His smile is not temporary, it is eternal. Moses was 80 when God called him to his greatest assignment. 80 years old. While the world would have put him in a nursing home, God handed him a staff and said, "Now we begin the real work." Caleb was 85 when he declared in Joshua 14:12, "Give me this mountain, not give me a rocking chair, not let me rest. Give me this mountain." You want to know why heaven smiled? Because you finally stopped believing the devil's lie about your expiration date. But here's what's going to shock you. The crown you now wear, this divine approval, this heavenly smile, it's not jewelry for display. It's a torch for others stumbling in darkness. You don't wear it for applause. You carry it to light paths for those still lost in the wilderness you've already walked through. Think about it. How many people in your family, your neighborhood, your church are dying inside right now? How many are sitting in empty houses, staring at four walls, believing their lives no longer matter? They need to see what happens when someone refuses to accept society's death sentence on their purpose. The world may have told you your best days are behind you, but in God's eyes, the smile over you means your greatest days are just beginning. Listen to me carefully. Every tear you cried in secret prepared you for this moment. Every night you felt forgotten was actually God hiding you until the appointed time. Every rejection that broke your heart was heaven protecting you from settling for less than your divine destiny. You survived your husband's death not to spend your remaining years in lonely grief, but to become a voice of hope for other widows who think love died with their spouse. You endured that financial crisis not to live in perpetual fear of poverty, but to testify that Jehovah Jireh still provides for His own. You walked through that valley of depression not to remain a victim, but to become a lifeline for others drowning in despair. Chosen one, heaven smiled. God's gaze rests on you, and His smile is not temporary, it is eternal. The enemy wants you paralyzed by past pain, but God wants you empowered by proven faithfulness. The devil whispers that you're too old to matter, but the Almighty declares in Isaiah 46:4, "Even to your old age and grey hairs, I am He who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry you." Every morning you wake up is heaven's declaration that your assignment isn't complete. Every breath in your lungs is God's vote of confidence in your continued purpose. You're not surviving, you're thriving. You're not existing, you're reigning. But here's the urgency that should grip your heart right now. Time is shorter than you think. Not your time, God's time. This generation is drowning in hopelessness, and they need to see living proof that God still moves, still heals, still provides, still cares. They need your testimony. They need your wisdom. They need your seasoned faith that's been tested by fire and found genuine. You think you're too old to make a difference? Tell that to Anna, the prophetess, who was 84 when she recognized baby Jesus and proclaimed redemption to all who looked for it. Tell that to Elizabeth, who gave birth to John the Baptist in her old age and became the mother of the greatest prophet ever born. The crown you wear is not a trophy for past victories. It's a commissioning for present battles. You don't retire from God's army, you get promoted to general. Your grey hair isn't a sign of weakness, it's a badge of authority, earned through decades of faithful service. Type these words right now. My story is not over. Let it echo across this community. Let it reverberate through the heavenly realms. Let it silence every demonic whisper that tried to convince you that your sunset years were here. Because, chosen one, you're not in the sunset. You're in the sunrise of your most powerful season. The smile of God over your life is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your legacy. And that legacy starts with what you do next. Listen to me, dear one. Have you ever sat in a crowded room and felt completely alone? Have you ever wondered why conversations that energize others drain your very soul? Why small talk feels like choking on sawdust when your spirit hungers for depth? Why you've spent 70, 80, maybe 90 years on this earth feeling like a stranger in your own skin? Let me ask you something that might cut deep. Why do you think you've never quite fit anywhere? Why has every group, every church, every family gathering left you feeling like you're speaking a language nobody else understands? Why do people either love you instantly or avoid you completely, with nothing in between? You've blamed yourself, haven't you? You've whispered those crushing words in the mirror. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just be normal? Why does everything feel so heavy? Stop. Right there. Stop carrying that lie another second. The reason you feel different isn't because something is wrong with you. It's because something extraordinary is right with you. You carry the weight of glory, and glory cannot hide among ordinary things. Isaiah 60:1 declares with thunderous authority, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." This isn't poetry, beloved. This is your identity. You don't just carry light. You are light wrapped in human flesh. And light, real light, makes shadows uncomfortable. Think about Moses coming down from Mount Sinai. Scripture tells us his face was so radiant that the Israelites couldn't even look at him. Exodus 34:29 says Moses was not aware that his face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. He didn't feel different. He was different. The glory he carried was so intense it required a veil. That's you, chosen one. You've been wondering why people react strangely to your presence, why conversations die when you enter rooms, why some folks get nervous around you for no reason they can name. It's not your personality, it's your spiritual DNA. You carry the weight of glory, and that weight presses against every demon, every darkness, every deception in your proximity. When you walk into spaces, atmospheres tremble, not because of who you are in flesh, but because of what rests on your spirit. The enemy has spent decades trying to convince you that your difference is a curse. He's whispered lies that your sensitivity is weakness, that your depth is dysfunction, that your inability to tolerate superficiality is somehow your failing. But what if I told you that everything hell called your weakness Heaven calls your weapon. Your tears aren't too much, they're intercession. Your sleepless nights aren't insomnia, they're prayer vigils. Your ache for authenticity isn't antisocial behavior, it's prophetic discernment that refuses to settle for counterfeits. You've carried scars that others don't understand, wounds from people who should have celebrated you, but instead tried to dim your light. Betrayals from those who felt exposed by your authenticity. Rejections from communities that couldn't handle the weight of your presence. And here's the revelation that will shatter every lie you've believed about those scars. You thought your scars were shame. Heaven calls them credentials. Every wound you've endured was evidence that you carry something precious. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty vessels. Hell doesn't mobilize against ordinary people. The level of warfare you've faced is directly proportional to the glory you carry. David understood this when he wrote in Psalm 23:5, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." God doesn't set your table in safe places. He sets it where your enemies can watch you feast. Your very survival is a testimony. Your ability to still love after betrayal, still trust after abandonment, still hope after disappointment, that's not human resilience. That's glory under pressure, and it shines brighter because of the darkness it's endured. Right now, some of you are feeling something stirring in your chest. Something that's been dormant for years is awakening. That's not your imagination, that's recognition. Your spirit is remembering what your mind forgot. You are not an accident walking around pretending to have purpose. You are purpose disguised as a person. The weight you've carried isn't punishment, it's preparation. God trusted you with glory because he knew you could bear it without being corrupted by it. While others chase spotlight, you've learned to shine in shadows. While others perform for applause, you've learned to serve in secret. The weight of glory requires vessels that won't shatter under its intensity. You've wondered why your prayers seem to shake things, why your words carry unusual weight, why people confess their deepest secrets to you within minutes of meeting you, why children gravitate toward you and animals trust you instantly. It's the glory, beloved. It's the presence of the Almighty radiating through your humanity. But here's the urgency burning in my spirit right now. The weight of glory isn't just about you feeling different. It's about you accepting the responsibility that comes with carrying heaven's presence. You are not just blessed, you are commissioned. You are not just chosen, you are charged with bringing light into darkness. Every room you enter is a mission field. Every conversation is a divine appointment. Every person who crosses your path has been orchestrated by heaven to encounter the glory you carry. Stop apologizing for your intensity. Stop shrinking to make others comfortable. Stop hiding your light under the bushel of false humility. If you feel this truth burning in your chest right now, if something in your spirit is confirming every word I'm speaking, type now, "I carry glory." Declare it boldly. Don't just think it, proclaim it. Let heaven hear your agreement, and let hell know its deception has been exposed. Because, chosen one, understanding that you carry the weight of glory changes everything. It explains your past, clarifies your present, and illuminates your future. And what's about to happen next in your story will require every ounce of glory you've been carrying in secret. Dear chosen one, what happened in your spirit didn't just ripple through your own life. It detonated across the timeline of eternity itself. You see, the enemy has been whispering a cruel lie to seniors across America. He's convinced you that your best days are behind you, that your influence ended when you retired, that your grandchildren don't need your prayers because they have Google and smartphones. But what if I told you that's the most devastating deception hell ever crafted? Because your yes didn't just set you free. It set in motion a river of blessing that your children's children will drink from. Think about this for a moment. You've watched your own children make choices that broke your heart. You've seen your grandchildren drift from the faith you held sacred. You've wondered if the prayers you've whispered over their lives for decades were just words dissolving into silence. You've questioned whether your legacy would be one of struggle, disappointment, maybe even shame. But listen to me, warrior. What you finally did shifted something in the heavenly courts. Your breakthrough wasn't just personal, it was generational. Scripture declares in Deuteronomy 7-9, "Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping his covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments." Did you hear that? 1,000 generations. Not just your children, not just your grandchildren, but generations you will never meet in this lifetime will walk in freedom because you finally said yes. Let me paint you a picture that will shatter your heart open with hope. There was a grandmother in Brooklyn, let's call her Rose, 83 years old, hands gnarled with arthritis, voice cracked with age. For 47 years, she prayed every morning at 5 a.m. for her grandson Marcus. This boy had been in and out of prison, addicted to everything that destroys, lost 3 jobs, broke his mother's heart, and everyone had given up on him. But Rose kept praying, even when her daughter begged her to stop getting her hopes up, even when Marcus cursed her faith to her face, even when the doctors said she had 6 months to live. On a Tuesday morning, as Rose knelt beside her bed for what would be her final prayer, something shifted in the spiritual realm. She whispered, "God, I don't care if I never see the answer, but I'm not dying until I know you've got him." 3 weeks later, Marcus walked into a church not because someone invited him, but because he said he heard his grandmother's voice telling him to go. Rose had passed away the night before. Today, Marcus pastors that same church. His children serve in ministry. His grandchildren are being raised in the fear of the Lord. 4 generations changed because one old woman refused to quit praying. You are that runner in a divine relay race, chosen one. The torch of faith burning in your weathered hands isn't meant to die with you. It's meant to ignite the next generation. But here's the shocking truth. They can't catch fire until you fully burn. Every compromise you refuse breaks a chain off your lineage. Every time you choose obedience over comfort, you're building an inheritance your great-grandchildren will spend. Every prayer you pray in the midnight hour is being stored up in heaven's treasury, earning compound interest for souls not yet born. The curse that haunted your family tree, the addiction, the poverty, the broken marriages, the mental illness, the rage that passed from father to son, like some twisted inheritance, it stops at your feet, not because you're perfect, but because you finally stood up and declared, "No more, this ends with me." Because you stood, your grandchildren will rise. Because you believed, they will be blessed. The curse stopped at your feet. But let me ask you something that's going to cut deep into your soul. What if you had given up last year? What if you had surrendered to the lie that you were too old, too tired, too broken to matter? Where would your family be then? What patterns would continue unchecked? What chains would remain unbroken? The enemy fought you so hard because he saw what was at stake. Not just your soul, but an entire bloodline. He knew that if you ever stepped into your authority, if you ever embraced your calling, if you ever realized the power flowing through your prayers, his grip on your family would be shattered forever. You are not just a senior citizen counting down to glory. You are a generational game changer. Your prayers don't just move mountains, they move family trees. Your faith doesn't just change your circumstances, it rewrites your descendants' DNA. This is why your story matters. This is why your testimony can't stay locked in your heart. This is why the fire burning in your bones at 85 years old isn't nostalgia, it's prophecy. Right now, as these words wash over your spirit, something is happening in the timeline of your family. Chains are breaking, doors are opening, hearts are softening. Your decision to finally surrender, to finally say yes, to finally step into your calling is sending shockwaves through generations not yet born. Write this boldly now in the comments. Generations shift with me. It's not just words, it's prophecy. You're not typing a comment, you're issuing a decree from the throne room of your heart. You're announcing to heaven and hell that the old patterns die here and new blessings begin now. Your legacy isn't what you did in your 20s or 30s. Your legacy is what you're choosing right now, in this sacred moment. as the torch passes from your trembling hands to the next generation. The fire is spreading, chosen one, and there's no putting it out. Chosen one, what I'm about to reveal will shatter everything you thought you knew about why you've endured what you've endured. That smile from heaven, it wasn't just approval, it was assignment. Listen carefully. You've been asking God for 60, 70, maybe 80 years. Why me, Lord? Why has my path been so hard? Why have I carried weights that crushed others? But what if those weren't punishments? What if they were preparations for something so significant that heaven had to be absolutely certain you could handle it? The moment God smiled over you, something extraordinary happened in the unseen realm. A sealed scroll with your name written in divine ink before you drew your first breath finally cracked open, not because you became perfect, but because you became trustworthy. You see, most believers think God's favor means easier lives. They expect blessing to look like comfort, promotion to feel like relief. But you, dear one, you've walked a different road. You've been in God's secret training program, and you didn't even know it. Think about this. When Pharaoh needed someone to manage Egypt's economy during 7 years of famine, did God choose someone who'd lived in luxury? Number. He chose Joseph, a man who'd been betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and forgotten in prison for years. Why? Because pressure reveals character, and character determines capacity. Your struggles weren't evidence of God's displeasure. They were proof of His confidence in you. Every sleepless night when you prayed through tears, every financial crisis that should have destroyed you but somehow didn't, every betrayal that cut deep but couldn't kill your faith, every season when heaven seemed silent but you kept believing anyway, all of it was heaven's examination, not to hurt you, but to certify you. The Apostle Paul understood this mystery when he wrote in 2 Corinthians 4:17, "For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory." Paul called his beatings, shipwrecks, and imprisonments light affliction because he understood they were producing something magnificent. But here's what will shock you to your core. That weight you've carried, those battles you've fought in silence, that pain you've endured while watching others live seemingly blessed lives, it was all preparing you to carry something infinitely more valuable than comfort. You were being tested for trustworthiness with the sacred. God doesn't hand His most precious assignments to people who crumble under pressure. He doesn't entrust His deepest secrets to those who compromise when things get difficult. He gives them to the ones who've proven they'll stand when everyone else falls, who'll worship when their world collapses, who'll say, "Yes, Lord," even when they can't see the path ahead. The prophet Isaiah declared in chapter 61, verse 3, "To give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness." But notice something profound here. God doesn't erase the ashes. He transforms them into beauty. Your pain wasn't pointless, it was purposeful. Every tear has been collected in heaven's bottles, and now those tears are about to become rivers of blessing flowing through you to heal a broken world. This is why the enemy fought you so viciously. He saw what was coming. He recognized that if you ever discovered who you really are, if you ever stepped into the fullness of what God placed inside you, His kingdom would face a threat it's not prepared for. A believer who's been tested by fire and emerged unbroken is the most dangerous weapon in God's arsenal. You thought you were just surviving, but heaven was forging you into a deliverer. Moses was 80 years old when God called him from that burning bush. 80. The world would have called him washed up, past his prime. But God said, "Now you're ready. Now you understand dependence. Now you've learned that it's not about your strength, it's about my power working through your surrender." Sarah was 90 when she conceived Isaac. 90, medical impossibility. But God specializes in using what the world considers finished to birth what heaven calls destiny. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Every year you've lived has added another layer of authority to your voice. Chosen one. Heaven's smile was not only delight, it was a commission. you have been entrusted with a mandate. The moment he smiled, heaven's scroll with your name opened, and angels began to position themselves around your next assignment. This is why the pressure never let up. You were being tested for trustworthiness, and you passed. Every time you chose forgiveness over bitterness. Every moment you selected praise over complaint. Every season you picked faith over fear. You were proving to heaven that you could handle more than survival. You could handle significance. But here's the urgent truth that should grip your heart right now. This mandate isn't optional. It's not something you can delay until you feel more ready, more qualified, more prepared. The world is groaning under the weight of darkness, and heaven needs carriers of light who've been purified in the furnace of real experience. You are not just saved, you are sent. Not sent to a pulpit necessarily, not sent to a platform, but sent into your sphere of influence with something the world desperately needs, the testimony of someone who's walked through hell and came out carrying heaven's fire. Your story isn't just personal history, it's prophetic arsenal. Your scars aren't shame, they're credentials that qualify you to speak life into dead situations. The people in your family, your neighborhood, your workplace, they don't need another preacher. They need a living epistle. They need someone whose very presence proves that God still moves, still heals, still delivers, still keeps his promises, even when everything looks impossible. If you accept this mandate, type these words: I am sent. You are agreeing with heaven. You are accepting the commission that your pain has purchased, that your perseverance has earned, that your faithfulness has unlocked. But understand this clearly, once you say yes to this mandate, there's no going back to small living, to playing it safe, to hiding your light under the bushel of fear or false humility. Heaven has smiled, the scroll has opened, and your real life is about to begin. The question that will determine everything is this: will you step into the mandate that your suffering has prepared you to carry? Chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to cut straight through to your soul. How many nights have you laid in that bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering why the flames kept coming? Why every time you thought you'd found peace, another fire erupted in your life? Your marriage burned down, your health went up in smoke, your finances turned to ash, your dreams incinerated. But listen to me very carefully. What if I told you that every single flame that licked at your life, every fire that should have consumed you, every inferno that hell unleashed against you, was never meant to destroy you? What if those flames were actually heaven's forge, preparing you for something so powerful that you needed to be fireproofed first? You see, dear one, the enemy made a fatal mistake. He thought fire would end you, but fire only refines what's already precious. And you, beloved, you were precious long before the flames ever touched you. Isaiah 43:2 declares with thunderous authority, "When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze, not if you walk through fire." When? Because God already knew the flames were coming. He already knew hell would try to incinerate your destiny, and he already declared you fireproof before the first spark ever flew. Think about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, thrown into a furnace heated 7 times hotter than normal. 7 times. The soldiers who threw them in died just from the heat radiating from that furnace. But these 3 men, they walked around in those flames like they were taking a stroll through Central Park on a spring morning. But here's what shook King Nebuchadnezzar to his core. When he looked into that furnace, he didn't see 3 men. He saw 4, and the 4th one looked like the Son of God. That's your story right there, chosen one. Every time the flames got hotter, Jesus stepped deeper into the fire with you. Fire tried to consume you. It failed. Your marriage was supposed to burn you to the ground, but you're still standing. Your business was supposed to leave you in ashes, but here you are breathing. Your diagnosis was supposed to incinerate your hope, but your faith burns brighter than ever. Darkness tried to silence you. It failed. Every whisper that told you to quit, every voice that said you were finished, every midnight hour when depression tried to choke out your song. But your voice cuts through darkness like a sword because it's been tempered in fire. Death tried to end you. It failed. Not just physical death, but spiritual death, emotional death, the death of dreams. How many times should you have given up? How many times should despair have won? But something kept you breathing, kept you believing, kept you standing when weaker souls would have crumbled. You know what that something was? The breath of the Almighty in your lungs, making you fireproof from the inside out. Now here's the revelation that's going to transform everything. The fire didn't just fail to destroy you. The fire crowned you. Every flame that licked at your life was actually heaven's way of placing royal authority on your head. Because in God's kingdom, crowns aren't made of gold. They're forged in fire. You think those scars on your heart are signs of defeat? No, those are your credentials. You think that limp you carry from life's battles makes you weak. That's your badge of honor, proving you wrestled with impossibility and won. You think the tears you've cried disqualify you. Those tears were liquid prayers that moved heaven to action. Listen to me, chosen one. You don't just carry fire now, you are fire. When you walk into a room, atmospheres shift because you bring the heat of heaven with you. When you pray, hell trembles because your prayers have been refined in the furnace of real warfare. When you speak, people listen because your words carry the authority of someone who's been tested and proven unburnable. The fire that tried to consume you has become the fire that flows through you. That's why when you lay hands on the sick, they recover. That's why when you speak to mountains, they move. That's why when you declare God's promises, they manifest with unusual power. You're not just blessed, beloved, you're weaponized. But here's the part that should make hell shake in its boots. The fire that couldn't destroy you has now made you dangerous to darkness. Every demon that looks at you sees the flames of refinement burning in your eyes. They know you've been through their worst and came out victorious. They know their weapons don't work on you anymore. You are fireproof, chosen one. Not because you're special in yourself, but because the God who made you special declared you untouchable by hell's flames. And once heaven declares you fireproof, no force in hell can change that verdict. The fire did not destroy you, it crowned you. Now you carry authority hell cannot touch. You walk in places others fear to go because you know fire can't harm you. You speak words others wouldn't dare because you know your voice has been refined by flame. This is your moment to stop seeing those battles as defeats and start seeing them as your coronation ceremony. Every fire was another level of authority being added to your spiritual crown. Every flame was heaven saying, "This one can handle more. This one is ready for greater assignments." Write it boldly in the comments right now. I am fireproof. Don't just think it, declare it. Every time you see those words, remember your victory. Remember that hell gave you its best shot and failed. Remember that you're not just a survivor, you're a conqueror walking in fireproof destiny. Because chosen one, the flames that couldn't consume you yesterday can't even touch you today. And the fire burning in you now, that's about to set the world ablaze with the glory of God. Chosen one. Heaven smiled. Not for a moment, for eternity. Look at yourself right now. Really look. Do you see what I see? You're not the same person who started this journey. That weight you carried for 70, 80, 90 years. Where is it now? That shame that whispered you were forgotten. Where did it go? That fear that your best days were behind you. Can you even find it anymore? You survived the night. Now dawn is breaking. Heaven's smile is your morning. Let me take you back through what just happened to your soul. You came here carrying pain that had your name carved into it. Pain that followed you from childhood. Pain that sat at your dinner table. Pain that whispered lies about your worth when the world went quiet. But something shifted, didn't it? You walked through fire that should have consumed you. Not the comfortable fire of Sunday morning sermons, but the kind that burns away everything false. The fire of betrayal by people you trusted. The fire of watching dreams die one by one. The fire of feeling invisible while others got recognition. But look what happened. You didn't burn. You were refined. Then came surrender. Oh, that beautiful, terrifying moment when you finally let go. When you stopped trying to control outcomes you were never meant to control. When you whispered those sacred words, "Not my will, but yours." The angels recorded that moment. Hell trembled at that sound, because surrender isn't weakness. It's the most dangerous thing you can do to darkness. And what followed? A crown, not made of gold or jewels, but forged from every tear you refused to let embitter you. Every time you chose forgiveness over revenge. Every morning you got up when staying down would have been easier. Heaven placed that crown on your head while you slept, and now you walk differently. People sense it. Rooms shift when you enter. Your prayers carry weight they never had before. But crowns bring responsibility. You discovered you carry glory now, not the cheap imitation the world peddles, but the real thing, the kind that makes demons nervous and angels stand at attention. You're not just blessed anymore. You're dangerous to every lie that tries to take root in someone else's heart. Psalm 30:5 declares it perfectly. Weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Your night lasted decades, didn't it? But every tear was being collected in heaven's bottles. Every cry was being recorded in eternity's archives. And now comes your morning. Here's what breaks my heart about so many seniors in America today. They've been told their story is ending when God is saying it's just beginning. They've been convinced to settle into rocking chairs when heaven is calling them to thrones. At 75, 80, 85 years old, they think they're winding down when they're actually being wound up for their greatest assignment. Moses was 80 when God called him from a burning bush. Sarah was 90 when she gave birth to nations. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Every year you've lived has been preparation. Every struggle has been strength training. Every loss has been positioning for permanent gain. But here's the shocking truth that will revolutionize how you see your remaining years. When you finally surrendered, God smiled, and that smile will carry you into eternity. That smile isn't temporary. It's not based on your performance tomorrow or your mistakes yesterday. It's eternal, unchanging, unshakable. When storms come, and they will come, that smile is still there. When your body grows weaker, that smile grows stronger. When others forget your name, heaven remembers your story. You want to know why God smiled? Because you proved something hell said was impossible. You proved that age cannot diminish anointing, that pain cannot poison purpose, that time cannot steal testimony. You became living proof that God's chosen ones don't fade. They flame brighter. Right now, at this very moment, there are younger generations watching you, your grandchildren, your neighbors, people at the grocery store who see something different in your eyes. They're watching to see if faith is real. If God actually keeps his promises, if there's hope for broken people, your life is their answer. This is your mandate now. You're not just living for yourself anymore. You're carrying fire for those who can't even light a match. You're speaking hope for those who've lost their voice. You're standing strong for those whose knees are buckling. But understand this, God's smile over you isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your legacy. Every day you wake up now is another opportunity to let that smile shine through you. Every conversation becomes a chance to transfer hope. Every prayer becomes a weapon against despair. The enemy thought your best chapters were behind you. God is proving your greatest chapters are still being written, with handwriting that shimmers with heaven's approval, with ink that flows from eternity's fountain, with words that will echo long after your voice goes quiet. Type right now, "Heaven smiled over me." Don't think about it. Let your fingers declare what your heart knows is true. Let that simple sentence become your new identity. Share this message. Be the torch that awakens another chosen one who's been told their time is over. Someone needs to hear that God still smiles. Someone needs proof that surrender leads to crowns. Stay connected. This prophetic journey is not over. Every return brings you deeper into the flow of heaven's voice. Because, chosen one, you're not just surviving your golden years, you're reigning in them. Heaven smiled, and that smile will carry you home. Chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry these eternal truths with you like precious stones in your heart. Remember this: your pain was never punishment, it was preparation. Every sleepless night, every tear shed in silence, every moment you felt forgotten has been weaving together a tapestry of purpose that only heaven could design. Your scars are not marks of defeat, they are evidence of divine trust. God doesn't give his heaviest assignments to the weak. He entrusts them to those he knows can carry them with grace. Remember this: the fire that almost destroyed you has become the flame that now lights the way for others. What the enemy meant for your destruction, God has transformed into your greatest weapon. Your testimony is not just your story, it's someone else's lifeline. Remember this: heaven's smile over you is not temporary, it's eternal, unchanging, unshakable. When your body grows weaker, that smile grows stronger. When others forget your name, heaven remembers your story. You are marked by eternity itself. But hear me clearly, you are not walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when doubt whispers lies in your ear, the Creator of the universe is working behind the scenes on your behalf. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, orchestrating blessings you can't even imagine. And right here, in this community of believers, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're a family united by faith, connected by hope, and bound together by the love of Christ. When the world tells you to fade quietly into the background, we're here to remind you that your voice still matters. When circumstances try to convince you that your best days are behind you, we're here to declare that your greatest chapters are still being written. Let me ask you this: now that you know heaven smiled because of your surrender, now that you understand your struggles were actually preparations, now that you felt the weight of divine approval settling on your shoulders, how will you walk differently tomorrow morning when you wake up? Will you continue to see yourself as forgotten, or will you embrace the truth that you are treasured? Will you keep speaking defeat over your future, or will you begin declaring the victory heaven has already decreed? Will you hide your light under the bushel of age and insecurity, or will you let it shine as the beacon it was always meant to be? Before I release you into your destiny, I want to place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority that comes from walking with God through my own valleys and victories. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with me through this entire message. Lord, you see their hearts, the hopes they carry, the fears they battle, the dreams they've almost given up on. Tonight, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary souls. God, silence every voice of doubt that has whispered they're too old, too broken, too forgotten. Break every chain of limitation that has held them captive. Open their eyes to see the doors you're already opening, the opportunities you're already creating, the miracles you're already releasing. Father, place your mighty hand upon their shoulders right now. Let them feel your presence like a warm embrace. Where there has been loneliness, bring divine companionship. Where there has been sickness, release supernatural healing. Where there has been lack, pour out abundance. Where there has been confusion, grant crystal clarity. Lord, give them dreams that direct them and visions that guide them. Surround them with people who recognize the anointing on their lives and will encourage them to step fully into their calling. Let them wake up tomorrow knowing beyond any shadow of doubt that they are loved, they are chosen, they are equipped, and they are not alone. Use their stories, God, every painful chapter, every moment of triumph to set captives free. Let their testimonies become lighthouses for others who are lost in the storm. May their surrendered hearts become channels of your grace to a world desperate for hope. In Jesus' mighty name, the name above every name, I seal this prayer over their lives. Let your will be done, your kingdom come, your love be known. Amen. Now, beloved ones, I want to hear from you. Don't just watch, participate. Share in the comments how God spoke to your heart today. What shifted in your spirit? What are you believing Him for in this new season? Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to keep going. Ask questions if you need prayer for specific areas of your life. This community will surround you with intercession. Share your struggles, your victories, your hopes. Let us stand with you in faith. And please share this message with someone who needs to hear it. There's someone in your life right now who's been feeling exactly like you felt before you watched this. They need to know they're not forgotten, not broken beyond repair, and their greatest days are not behind them but ahead of them. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what heaven wanted to pour into you tonight. Your presence here tells me everything I need to know about your character. You're not giving up, you're showing up. You're not retreating, you're receiving. If this is your first time here, welcome home. Hit that subscribe button and join thousands of believers who gather here regularly to be encouraged, equipped, and empowered for kingdom living. Ring that notification bell so you never miss when heaven has a fresh word for your journey. Remember, chosen one, you are not alone, you are not forgotten, and you are not behind. Heaven smiled because you finally did what you were born to do, surrender. And that surrender has become your greatest victory. Walk in that truth. Live in that confidence. Rest in that love. Until we meet again, may the smile of heaven be your constant companion, and may you never forget you are chosen, you are beloved, and your story is far from over. God bless you mightily, warrior. Your finest hour awaits.